So this is perhaps a $1 million question we've been asked here in our work over the last 12 years, which is, what does it mean to fight the system, or do we need to fight the system? Like, how do we actually create change? And a lot of people feel that fighting the system is the way to do it. And the problem with the word fight, or even the idea of fighting the system, is not the idea of doing something. It's, what does it mean to fight the system? What does that look like both in our actions, but also in our emotional state and our state of being? Because it's a very important discussion to have with regards to how we actually get things done, how we bridge gaps and bring people together so that we can actually take actions that are meaningful and that do create a change. So one of the things I wanted to do with this clip in this video is to really explore this idea of fighting the system and really help us understand the different interpretations there are out there, because a lot of people feel that we're in a time where we can't sit back, right? And a lot of people feel that if you're not fighting the system, that you're just sitting back. Whereas maybe on the flip side, there's some people who feel that fighting the system is not a good thing. We want, if by fighting, we're actually reinforcing it. So how do we find where these ideas overlap, and how do we get clear on really feeling out what might be the right actions to take to actually create the change and create a better world that we all know is possible? So I had a discussion a couple weeks ago with a man by the name of Kevin Annett, and he is a researcher, probably one of the foremost researchers on exploring the crimes and atrocities that the Canadian government and the church has carried out on Indigenous peoples. And the idea of fighting the system did come up during this conversation, so let's have a listen. Yeah, I want to touch a little bit more on the idea of sort of fighting the system versus an invitation into a new idea. There's always this almost this light that's put on fighting the system that does seem to, it feels like, well, that's the only way. We just got to fight back and fight back and fight back. But there is this other route of creating something that's new and inviting others to come check it out. Can you touch on how that even feels different and how that works differently in opening people's minds?
It's a very spiritual process, actually. It's about energy, and we're all energy. I mean, in physics, they say matter is an illusion. We're just energy frequencies. And that's true in that when you protest, even a large demonstration, I've been on big ones, they're all controlled because they're all asking for something from the government. And if the government says no, boom, they're gone. I mean, the initiative lies with the government. What we're saying is we're not asking for anything. We're creating a new system over here.
Right.
And energetically, what that does, because the system is parasitic on our energy, our attention, our taxes, our votes. And as soon as you withdraw your energy and put it over there, it's amazing the impact even a few people can have just by doing that, because the system is like a balloon and it starts shrinking. When we take away our energy, it starts deflating, and they can't fight that. Mm-hmm. There's no way they can. So they keep putting out, when they see that happening, they put out lures to lure people back into the system, saying, oh, look, we believe in reconciliation now. Oh, look, we're doing these changes and we're looking into the mass graves, right? To suck people back in to continue to feed off them. And it's that simple. So we found when we were building our Republic assemblies, that was the hardest idea to get people to accept that you can govern yourself. Forget about what the government is doing. It's a collapsing system anyway. You want to build an alternative for our own survival, for what's coming for our children and grandchildren. They need something different. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the approach we take. And it's amazing. It's like our campaign to expose genocide. We only had a couple of dozen of us, and yet we forced what thousands of people in a protest couldn't have done, because we weren't asking for anything. We're occupying the churches. We're saying, we're shutting you down. You kill children. Yeah. Then the government had to run after us and follow, just like everything they're doing now, we said 20 years ago. That's what, and a book called The Art of War by Sun Tzu, we often quote it. It's in my common law training manual, whistleblower manual, some of these books the links you've got. Sun Tzu, a Chinese general 3,000 years ago, said, if you attack what the enemy loves, it doesn't matter how big they are and how small you are, they have to respond.
Yeah.
And if you set the terms of battle, he called it forming the ground. You decide where the battle is going to be. You decide the terms of the battle. You've won already. If you respond to their terrain, they've won already. They've won before the battle's even fought, because they control the narrative and the terrain. And that's what we proved in practice. We said from the beginning, this is about genocide, not sexual abuse. Okay. Now they're all talking genocide. I mean, that's proof right there that it works, right?
Yeah. And on the energy front, to get a little bit more nuanced here, because, one of the criticisms that we've got as a brand over the last, 12, 13 years has been, by you guys talking about or exposing some of what's going on here, you're actually putting energy to it because you're talking about what's there. Through which we've responded, well, if you don't know what's going on and that there's a need for a change, then we can't talk about a change very easily. Can you touch on what your thoughts and feelings are on the idea of like how there's perhaps some necessary exposure that
Yeah.
needs to happen?
It's got to happen in very strategic doses because people just psychologically, as human beings, we get saturated very quickly with, and we are every day on the internet, saturated with all of the problems, all of the gloom and doom, all of the atrocities, all of the new devices the system is using to control us. I mean, that's not accidental. It's designed to psychologically numb us and make us feel helpless.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how slaves are kept, in this feeling of dependency and helplessness and fear. So you take a little bit of that, but what we find in the work we do, 10% of it, we talk about the problem. 90% of it, we talk about solutions. And not a blueprint we're handing people, but asking people themselves, what do you want?
Yeah.
What's your experience? What works and doesn't work? You can govern yourselves. I often say to people that I'm not an organizer, I'm a catalyst. I come in and I catalyze with ideas and a vision and perspective. And that vision is everything, right? And then you guys are the local organizers. You know your situation best. You have to organize yourself now. And it's a hard thing for people who've been raised in mental slavery to start thinking of, but there's a minority who do or are able to take that leadership. And that minority is often the people who lead a lot of these things,
Yeah, well, that's well said. And I think this is we're in a time where we've gone back to negotiating what type of society we want to live in, right? And COVID, in a sense, has even provided a grand opportunity for people to disrupt their normal for a second so that they're forced into this rethinking of what do I want my life to look like? Now that we've kind of pulled back, we see that the government wants to go full authoritarian. Perhaps now's a time to think about and do things differently. So to unpack this further, I actually created a couple of other videos on our other channel, Collective Evolution. On that channel, we more so explore some of the tools and the ways in which we can embody a state of being that allows us to move through this change. Just knowing that change needs to happen is one thing, but knowing how to do it, how to approach it, how to communicate it, how to connect with a deeper part of ourselves to make this happen in a meaningful way, but also how to actually connect with other people, which is a huge part of this. There's a lot of tools out there that sort of we need to build within ourselves, and Collective Evolution as a channel is our way of helping to do that. So there's two videos on that channel. One is called How to Embrace New Ideas and Envision a Better World, and the other one is asking the question, do we really need anger to change our lives and our system around us? So both of those videos kind of expand upon this idea a little further. It brings it more within some ideas that we can explore of how do we actually get into a space within ourselves that relates to very much what we talked about in this video. How do we create change? How do we start accepting and exploring new ideas and take meaningful action towards doing that, starting at the individual level? So go check out those videos on that other channel. And as always, be sure to subscribe to this channel for more videos in the future.